So we've got an LT42 Cub Cadet. It's an XT1 Enduro series mower, and it's got the Intellipower. That's the optimized cut performance. It says basically it controls the throttle of the mower with this nice fancy dial up front, from idle to transport, and then to power cut way down here in the corner. So depending on what your needs are, what exactly you're doing with it, it tells you where to go. Now this thing has, let's see, 12 whole hours. Oop, is it 60 hours? Yeah, it's got 60 hours on it. Okay. It was showing me battery voltage at first. I couldn't quite see it. 60 hours on it. We're just doing a service, but I have seen quite a few issues with these already. Let me go over a few things with those. Basically, it's got this board here that controls all of your fuel. So it's got two little motors down in here, one that controls the choke, one that controls the throttle of the unit, and that does everything to your mower. So I'm going to kind of take this apart and show you exactly how all that works. Honestly, I have only worked on a few of these. I've had some issues with the air cleaners being dirty. If the air cleaner is dirty, whatever sensor is in here is giving the mower a bad reading, and then you're not getting a good fuel supply. I've had some issues with that. I've had some issues just with the carbs being dirty. Make no mistake, it is a carburetor, even though it, you know, acts more like a throttle body or a EFI system, but it is not that. It is a carburetor still, even though it's electronically controlled by a board. So let me go ahead and get this hood off. I've already taken the light connection off for it. Put it down to the side. Now it's got this 547cc OHV engine on it. Branded Cub Cadet. I think they're made by Powermore, like most of the stuff. Chinese engine. I'm going to take the top off and see what we get up underneath. Now there's three wires down here that are coming from the Intellipower unit up top. Those are the only three inputs that come to this board from the mower. The rest of the electronics go to like the charging system and things like that, like a normal mower would have. Got a lot of grass buildup here, and I do see that on almost all of them, and it kind of comes out the backside too, where the exhaust is. So that's not a good design in my opinion. I mean, it's gonna start a fire at some point if it's not cleaned up. All over here you can see it just kind of pulling up around the exhaust. You can see where it's kind of burning a little bit already. Obviously not a really good design as far as that goes. So we've got a few different wires going all down through here. Basically we've got one going to the coil, of course, for your kill. Nothing too major there. That's kind of like on a standard unit. Up underneath here we have, it's a temperature sensor that sits connected to the bottom of the block. Now I'm not sure exactly what kind of temperature sensor that is, if it just shuts down the unit or exactly what it does, but on the parts list that is a temperature sensor. So let's talk about ground wires. We've got a good ground wire coming over here, mounted to the side of the block there. If the battery is not grounded good on this, or the battery is not grounded well to the block, you're definitely going to have issues. These things are very sensitive as far as that goes for grounding purposes. Make sure that your grounds are good. If you're having any issues whatsoever, that should be the first thing you check. Now, on this side, this wiring harness coming out with these three wires, that's actually coming from the other side of the unit. This is not coming from the charging system. This other block here is coming from the charging system with the yellow, the purple, and the black going to the regulator. But this is not coming from the charging system. That basically goes all the way through, up, over, and around, and it does kind of sit right on top of the stator and kind of route around it. But then it comes down through over here, and that's where they come out. So you've got those wires there, your white, your black, your red, going all down into here, and it looks like a couple of them are doubled up. They've got, on the back side, of course, you've got your solenoid, your anti-backfire solenoid here. Looks like a wood chip up in there. That's always good news. But basically, there's sensors, and I'm not sure exactly where those sensors are or what they do, to be quite honest with you. If I had to guess, they're part of the charging coil, and it grabs some pickups or something from there, because there's nothing really else on this unit. You know, all this wiring and stuff like that doesn't really go anywhere. I mean, there's nothing else to tell it how fast it's going or anything else, unless that charging system is helping. You know, there's magnets spinning in there that will tell you basically everything you need to know, as long as your board's programmed right. So it's got to either be using the voltage and figuring it out that way, or using the actual speed from the magnets traveling over one another. That's the only way that this thing can work. And again, I haven't had a real lot of experience working on these or anything like that. I'm just kind of trying to figure it out as we go and stay up with the technology. You know, there's only 3 wires here going to the Intellipower. They cross over and it goes to 4 wires here, so I would assume some of them are a little different. You've got an orange, a red, a black, and a blue on this side, and then a blue, a green, and a red on the other side. So again, I have replaced these boards. I've seen them go bad. They're only, I don't know, 75 bucks or 65 bucks, somewhere in there, I believe. If you're having any running issues, clean the carb. I mean, that's gonna be your first step for sure. They are a little bit different just with the board control up top. You know, there's 2 little motors in there that sit, electric motors that control all that stuff. But as far as all the sensors and everything go on this, again, it's got to be something that's controlled up underneath, because besides a temperature sensor here, and I mean, I guess you could be tapping in, they could be tapping into the coil somehow here and sensing when it's sparking, but I've never really seen that happen before. Is that your kill wire? But I don't know. It's an interesting technology. Not something that I would put on a mower, and not a mower I would buy personally, just because the technology is so new. They've only been out 2 or 3 years now. So why don't you guys tell me what you think? Let me know if you have any experience with anything like this. We're seeing more and more of it. You know, I had a Briggs V-twin the other day. Had kind of a similar electronic control unit on it. Yeah, definitely getting interesting. We worked on quite a few EFI snowblowers and things like that. So the EFI and the electronic control on things is definitely trickling down into the smaller unit base now. You know, with the EPA standards and everything else, all this stuff over the course of probably the next 10 years, if I had to guess, will be outlawed or obsolete. And I don't think a lot of the bigger stuff will ever be replaced by something like that, or at least not in my lifetime. But they're sure going to try it and push more and more of it on us. But hopefully this gives you a little bit of knowledge about these and kind of shows you a couple things. I'll go ahead and fire this thing up just so you can kind of hear what it does. But really all this does is controls the throttle. It's just like a knob for a throttle as opposed to a throttle. So the one advantage that they do say that this gives you, it keeps you from having that arc when you're bogging down. It keeps your engine from actually bogging down, and it keeps you at a solid RPM. Whether that works or not is up for debate. I have seen a few people mow with them. In my opinion, they still bog down. So I don't know that I really believe that claim, but to each his own. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe.